Let's look at the Power Query Editor in a little bit more detail. In an earlier video, we brought in two spreadsheets, two tables, and these appear on the left-hand side in what's called the Queries pane, and here's the customers and here's the orders. I can collapse the Queries pane with this little arrow, and I can expand the Navigator pane or the Queries list also using this arrow. Now, in addition to the Queries pane or the Navigator pane, what you see are the columns inside of that particular table or query. And we see a little button to the left of each column heading. So this says this is a date column, this is a text column because of the ABC, and this is the numbers column because of the 1, 2, 3. If I scroll across a little bit, I can see that net is actually a decimal, and so I can see 1.2 showing. So the columns actually show symbols, which is the data type that Power Query believes is in that column. The other thing you may notice on the right hand side are the query settings. Now when I click on customers, for example, I can see the name customers here. I could also change the name simply by clicking here. I can also go into all properties, and all properties also gives me the chance to give that table a description and give it an alternative name, and basically it refreshes and enables the load into the report. What we have here are a series of steps that have occurred when we've imported this data. So far when we bring the customers table in, it looks at the source, it looks at the navigation, it promotes the headers to be the top row, and it changes the type of various columns. So you can click on each of these steps that occurs now whenever the customer's data is refreshed or brought in. You can also see some M language up here, which is changing as I click on the various steps. If I click on the orders table or query, I can see the source again. I can see the navigation. I can see that this top row is then promoted to be column headings. And then I can see that Power Query has gone and changed the types of some of the columns to reflect the type of data that's in each column. If I wish to now go back to Power BI Desktop, I can click the Close and Apply button, and I'll automatically be taken back to Power BI Desktop, which will load the Customers query and the Orders query into the Power BI Desktop window, and you'll eventually see these appear on the right hand side. So on the right hand side, while it's working on it, you can now see customers and you can now see orders. If I hit the chevron in front of customers, I can expand and see the columns and close. And I can expand orders and see the columns in my orders table and close. As far as moving back and forth between Power Query and Power BI, to go back to Power Query, simply click the Transform Data button, and you'll be taken back to Power Query, where we can load more data and transform existing data. To get back to Power BI, I simply close and apply, and it takes me back to Power BI. If I go back to Query and I want to have a look at my data source settings, that's a possibility. I'll first of all click on Customers, and in the Home tab I'll click on this button, Data Source Settings. What this basically tells me is that the data sources in the current file are two. One is a file called Byte Customers, and that's where it's located, and one is called Orders History, and that's where that's located. So the names of the queries are actually the names of the sheet actually inside of these Excel files. If, for instance, this file has now changed its location, I can click this button and change the source location for that file. And I'm just going to close.